Hello and welcome back to Atmosphere Electric. I'm Rich Des fan. How are you, dude?
Yeah, I'm all right. You?
I'm alright, mate. Yeah, very good. Lots of football, lots of stuff to get through. It's been an exciting week, hasn't it? With Europe and playoffs starting and Premier League up and down. So it's been a good week of football, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been able to get stuck into, like say, some playoffs, but European football. It's been a nice little change of pace as well, and the sun's out.
Sun's out, guns out. Uh, let's rewind time, as Cher would once say, and let's no, turn back time. That was, wasn't it? I know last week was we were here giving it the big licks about how it was really easy to predict and turned out to not to be too easy to predict. But I think I got two correct scores at least. I think I got the Palace Forest and I got the Arsenal Bournemouth game right.
So we both got Palace Forest, and you got the Arsenal Bournemouth game right. So we both got five, but you got two correct, and I got one correct. So not the end of the world.
But not good enough, Frank. We need to strive for more.
We do.
We need to strive for more. Excuse me. Let's hope we do a little bit better this week. Let's start with European football. Obviously, a couple of major talking points. We'll come to the Europa League in a second, but start with the Champions League. Firstly, what a game that was on Tuesday night, Barcelona or Inter Milan versus Barcelona. For me, that was a real throwback to a proper game of football, wasn't it?
I think that's historically going to go down as one of the best ties ever. I also enjoyed the PSG Arsenal tie. I thought that had quite a lot about it as well. So I think both ties were really good. But Inter Barca, I think that will historically go down as one of the best European ties ever. Late drama, it had everything, probably except a red card.
Yeah, it was just an amazing watch. It was really, really good. And, Barcelona win it, a Cherby goes up the other end, and great finish from a centre back.
Unbelievable finish.
Just unreal, wasn't it? It was absolutely. We was obviously messaging, at 2-0 to Inter at half time. There's no way back. They're absolutely being useless and terrible in the second half. Inter Milan didn't get out of their half really until that last minute equaliser.
I thought that had a lot of. I put that down to the way Inter came out rather than the way Barca. Barca moved the ball a bit quicker than they did, but I thought Inter just sat off them and didn't really learn from the first leg. I thought first half. I messaged you every time Yamal got the ball. He was getting kicked. He was getting tackled. He had 3 or 4 men around him. I thought, they've really learnt the lesson here. And the second half, they just reverted back to the first leg tactic. So I thought it had more to do with how Inter went about it. But I mean, the one contentious thing I thought of the game is I thought it was a foul before the equaliser. For a Cherby's equaliser. When you slowed it down, I get when you slow it down, it looks even worse. But I did think it was a foul in real time as well. And there was hardly anything made of it on the comms, on the replays. They didn't really show it for VAR. I was really surprised by that, and I could understand why Barca went mad about it.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I don't know about you. Give it on the edge of the box, didn't he?
Yeah, I didn't think it was a free kick actually in the build-up. I thought it would have been very soft. But I guess that's the beauty of football, is that actually we'll see it slightly differently. But however it was, it added to the occasion, didn't it? Extra time was. The disappointing thing is I thought Barcelona were pretty poor in extra time in the end. I didn't think they really had anything. Into once they scored, didn't look like that. That was it. You could have turned off at that point. I thought it was done.
That was the strange part about the game, really. As soon as Inter did get the lead eventually to make it, what was it, 7-6 an aggregate or whatever it was, 8-7, whatever it was, they shut up shop, but actually did it properly. Whereas that was what we expected when they were 2 goals ahead. It was a real weird game. It was just so back and forth, and then the styles kept changing. But I mean, what a game! It was unbelievable, and some of the goals, some of the saves Sommer made as well, and then obviously in the PSG, get some of the saves that Donnarumma made.
Well, there's obviously been lots of stuff going around about Inter Milan selling Nana for 51 million and buying someone for 5 million. What an upgrade that is!
Fantastic upgrade. He's just as good with his feet, but he's actually a keeper. Stops it with his hands. Brilliant upgrade.
And then we move on to. You started there. There's a Wednesday night game, obviously, PSG getting through against Arsenal. And I think it's fair to say that almost the post-match comments have almost overtaken the game in terms of talking points. And for me, I'm not really particularly interested in who deserved to go through. The point that I would like to argue is that he's come out publicly and said that he feels they were the best team in the competition. If I'm honest with you, I thought they were the weakest team with the Final Four, so I'm not entirely sure what he's looking at to see that. If you put Arsenal up against any of the other 3 people in that semi-final pool, I think that they go out to all 3 of them.
Yeah, I think they're probably more suited to playing an Inter, but there's definitely a possibility they could go out. For me, the strongest team are PSG by an absolute mile. So to be in that game, lose, and then come out with that comment, I thought was just baffling, to be honest. I think Arsenal will probably have given Barcelona a good game as well, because I think defensively Barca just look dreadful. You can see why they concede so many goals, but also score so many goals. But there's a reason why people hate on Arsenal, and it's because of the way that the fans talk about the team. Like, I know Arsenal TV as well has a massive part to play in that. Like some of the comments that I've seen. Have you seen the clip that's going viral where they were celebrating the penalty? It's just brilliant. It's just making them look stupid every single week. So you can understand why other fans want them to lose, but some of the things they say about the team, some of the things that the manager comes out about the team it just doesn't help the narrative.
Yeah, I think they could. Again, after you've lost the game, and by the way, I would actually stop all manager interviews.
Straight after the game.
But press conferences before the game as well. You think about the amount of people that travel to a press conference to hear him give generic answers. Like, who cares about a pre-match press conference? When was the last time you got any genuine nugget other than, left back's injured, right back's fit, which you could do via fucking WhatsApp. Yeah. What are you getting out of a press conference? And then
just send a printed document just to say this is the squad we're thinking of. This person's injured.
Injuries.
Yeah.
I don't get it, and I don't get why you would. Again, when you think about Champions League semi-final, he'd come out in public to talk about his players in tears in the Champions League. Like, it's not a good time to be talking. You're not rational. Like, let him be. Go and be with your players. Genuinely, I think that's where a manager should be. And to have to talk to somebody that's asking you some really crap questions, you're setting yourself up to failure. You're not in the right frame of mind.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think some of the things that I did take out of the game, though, is as good as Odegaard is, he's not elite, is he? He's a very good player, but he doesn't influence the game that you'd want your captain and talisman effectively to. Saka, on the other hand, I think is now fully proving that he is elite. Like both games, considering he's only just come back from injury, he's affected the game. He's scored goals. Like he looked their only threat going forward. Like everything went through him. So I think the two players there, Saka is proving what a player he is, and we're so lucky to have him for England. But Odegaard, on the other hand, I think he stunk the place out for 2 games, really, and he was pretty anonymous throughout the 2 games when he's the sort of player you want on the ball dominating the game.
Well, I thought actually, to flip that, I thought the PSG midfield players made him look worse by how good they were. Their touches, their dribbling, their impact on the game. I think actually, and the thing I took away from it was that it looked to me like Arsenal had panicked and almost like on the Monday morning had gone, right, who can take a long throw in? And actually, because even Thomas Partey's long throws weren't that great, they weren't that long, but that became the
problems, though, didn't they? Like
I mean,
we talk about the midfield. Like, I thought Declan Rice showed in the 2 games that he had pretty decent games as well. He did get on the ball and he was looking forward a lot of the times, which is a bit of a criticism for him with England, is that he doesn't particularly look forward. Whereas for Arsenal, I thought he had a good game in there. Partey, I think, was a bit showing up as well. He was at fault for both of the goals, weren't he?
Yeah, it looked to me like they'd almost had a throw-on competition on Monday morning, see who could throw the ball the furthest, and then try to create something around it, rather than there being a proper strategy. And there was a great comment on Twitter where someone sort of said that Mikel Arteta using the long throw, while Dave, who's manager at step 7 in the Southern County Midland League, is asking his centre backs to split and play through the thirds, and you can't. It's. I thought it was an interesting concept. And then we will, of course, move on to what is now the all-English affair in Bilbao, Manchester United against Spurs. We don't really spend too much time talking about the games because it's fair to say that most of us thought they were through anyway. But the narrative that whoever wins the Europa League shouldn't get into the Champions League is frankly embarrassing, ridiculous, and people need to just know that if that's the rules, it's just nuts. I don't understand how this is picking up any weight.
It's only because people are obviously looking at the league and then saying, "Oh, what's all this about?" But it's the rules. Like when you're in a European competition or even a cup competition, let's take Palace as an example. Generally, you see the league form drop off because there's a sole focus elsewhere, and that's what's happened. Look, more power to them as well, and so they should do. Like, why would you not do that? You're in a European semi, now final. Of course you're going to rest players for it. It's the most important part of your season now. So it's completely ridiculous. It's just people trying to stir the pot, isn't it? Mainly people are Arsenal fans who now are going, "Oh, what's all this about?" You've had your chance, you missed it.
Yeah, even people now. So the argument is that, well, because the Champions League teams don't drop into it, it's lost. The best thing that's happened is that you don't drop down into a different competition and get knocked out. If you're out, you're out.
Like, of course it is. That's the first decision that I've seen the governing body make, which doesn't suit the elite.
Yeah, but again, if I go back and I said, "You're right, Frank," when Sevilla won, I think they won 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 4. Whether they finish in the league, you wouldn't be able to tell me. But I tell you what, they didn't finish in Champions League places.
Yeah.
That was always their route to Champions League. Then they'd drop down, they would finish third in the group, then they'd drop down, and it was rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. The fact the rules have changed for everybody, and to be fair to Postecoglou, who obviously is a dead man walking, I think the last 7 days he's actually made a couple of really good points. The first one was, well, last season we finished fifth and didn't get Champions League. That wasn't good enough. So the rules have changed, so that's fine. We have to accept that. But the Europa League rules, these are the Europa League rules. So back at the start of the season, it just suits your narrative to say that because Man United and Spurs aren't playing very well, it shouldn't be in the Champions League.
100% suits narratives. I can go back a few years and Leicester finished fifth twice. Didn't get Champions League, and effectively it probably cost them relegation. So you can go back and to suit any narrative, can't you, really? So absolutely more power to Postecoglou and Amorim for playing the players in the league that they have, although I don't think he's probably gone as weak as he should. Both of them, they've both played relatively strong teams, so I think they should have gone weaker. But I think you'll start to see that now. All focus will be on a final. Like I said, not even just the carrot of Champions League, it's actually winning a trophy. Forget the Champions League going forward. That's obviously important, but winning a trophy, more so for Spurs, is massive.
Both teams are at a crossroads. Whoever wins has a chance of kicking back in again and getting back into that top level. I fear for the team that doesn't, if I'm honest with you, because 6 teams.
I fear for Man U more than Spurs on that front, though. I think Man U are more desperate for that Champions League place. According to Jim Ratcliffe, they were going broke, weren't they?
Well,
I think it's far more beneficial for United than it is for Spurs. I think Spurs can bounce back a lot better than United. I think it is critical for United.
Well, not long to find out. 21st of May in Bilbao. And either way, I've really enjoyed this week's football so far. And now let's move on to the Premier League, which is what we're here to kind of predict and talk about. So we start, as we always do, with the first game of the weekend. Fulham host. There's no early kickoff this week. A little bit unusually. TNT have gone for an early kickoff on Sunday instead, which is a little bit left field. So good luck Chelsea making that journey up to Newcastle on Sunday for that kickoff. But we start at 3 o'clock. Fulham host Everton. Fulham still with a chance of European football. So does that give them the edge? Do you think that because they've still got an eye on an outcome and being at home, that just gives them a slight edge over Everton?
I've gone for a home win. I think, like you said, it still means a little bit more to Fulham. They're obviously at home, and I've sort of been a bit blinded by Everton and sort of previous results and performance. When you actually look at the results form rather than the way that they've played, they have dropped off quite considerably from when Moyes came in. Which, don't get me wrong, it's going to be really hard to keep up that form. It's title winning form, but I just look at this game and think it means more to Fulham and Everton. You say conceding 2 to Ipswich when you're 2-0 up. It doesn't. It's sort of that form is just running a bit longer than you'd probably want it to, really. So I'd be looking at a home win here. I think Fulham are pretty decent value.
Yeah, I agree. I think Fulham should have enough because they can still look up the table. Some of the teams above them have got some difficult games. Bournemouth are playing Aston Villa, Brighton are playing Wolves. Neither of those are give-me's. And then, of course, obviously Aston Villa are playing Bournemouth in return. So if Fulham could get the win with 2 games to go, that would put them right back in the mix. And, of course, with all the other things going on in terms of who wins the FA Cup and all that other good stuff, the positions are going to come down the league. So for me, Fulham really have a real chance of actually, top half finish, maybe as high as 8th. I think that'd be a real statement for them. And again, you talk about teams that need to kick on. Fulham are a team that could potentially look to kick on with a good window behind them. They could make themselves really difficult next season to play against.
I think the only thing coming out of Fulham at the minute, there's talk about the manager, isn't there, of a few other clubs in the Premier League, but also in Saudi. I think there's a big Saudi club who's come in for him and offered him ridiculous wages. And from some of the rumours I've seen is that he's interested in it, which would be a real kick in the teeth for them. Like you said, they'll be looking to kick on. So they do win this game, finish top half in a European place like this. It's all positive, and then all of a sudden your manager goes. So hopefully that doesn't happen to them because it would be good to see them kick on. And, they've been quite good. They've been very good in the transfer market, haven't they? Most of the signings that they make have all hit. So it'd be a bit of a shame for them to lose the manager when they are looking to progress.
Yeah, again, speaking really candidly for me, I think if you go to Saudi, you're going for one reason only. It's not for football integrity, and therefore probably highlights kind of that you're going to lose the manager at some point in the future anyway, right? So, but I don't know if it makes it any better if he went to an Arsenal, a Chelsea, a Newcastle, a team that are perceived to be bigger in England or Spain, but whether it makes any difference to the Fulham fans, if you're leaving, you're leaving. Do they care? But Fulham have been, as we said this a few times now, have been that kind of yo-yo team of win one, lose one. Obviously, they're back-to-back defeats. They've now won one, lost one. So, using some logic, there is a chance that I think that Fulham might win this game again. And obviously, Everton coming off the back of being 2-0 up but not getting the win against Ipswich. For me, that's just concentration, not being fully engaged in the game, and I can see that continuing to the rest of the season now. And why wouldn't it? Because everything's geared up on something. You're already hearing rumours coming out of Everton. They're looking to get Richarlison back, and they're looking to, Beto might be moving on to Leeds. And there's,
I saw them in for, apparently they've bid for Liam Delap. I was thinking he is not going there. Surely there's going to be bigger clubs in who can offer him the chance to be the number 9.
But every team in the country should at least throw their hat in the ring.
100% they should. Why not? Have a go.
You'd be mad not to. So, Fulham host Everton, 3 p.m. Craven Cottage. The score will be?
I've gone for Fulham 2, Everton 1.
Bingo, bango, so have I. Can't believe I just said bingo, bango in public twice. But so have I.
Every time now.
I don't think I can. Ipswich, where of course Liam Delap is still playing for at least another couple of games, host Brentford. And again, I can't tell you how impressed I've been with Brentford. Arguably the form team in the league. I know that Wolves kind of have had a great run. Obviously, before that defeat, Brentford 3 wins on the trot. 3 wins against Manchester United, Nottingham Forest, Brighton, drew with Arsenal, drew with Chelsea. That's a real run of form, isn't it? That's a very, very impressive run of 5 fixtures, however you cut it up.
Especially when you look at some of the players that have contributed, i.e. like Johan Visser and Buemo, which sounds really obvious, but it's just the levels of consistency. Like, I'm going back to sort of like Mateta last year, and we're going, it's a purple patch, which doesn't seem to be a purple patch now, by the way. It just seems to be a good forward. But the levels that those 2 main players, in Buemo and Visser, have held for Brentford over the season just shows that it's not just like a good run of form, that it actually is. They are very good players. And I've heard rumours about them not being there next season, like it's almost a done deal, which, again, what a shame. Like, you're looking to kick on, finish in the top half, possible European spots, and then all of a sudden you might lose your manager, you might lose your best players. Like, it's just such a shame for them. But, I mean, this to me, I've not got it down as my banker, but to me, it's pretty much a bank of this. When I look at the game, I can't see how Johan Visser doesn't score against that defence.
Yeah, completely agree. The one thing I will say is that they will get good money for the pair of them, towards 100 million quid, which...
Especially in Buemo, he's only, what was he, 25?
Younger than he looks, that's what I'm saying. It still freaks me out, by the way. Eddie Nketiah is older than Brian and Buemo. Genuinely still freaks me out. But they will get good money for them. And again, they've proven time and time again that they can lose a player, replace them, arguably replace them with upgrades. Again, what Buemo and Whisper's done this season has been nothing short of phenomenal. And like you, I think that they will have certainly one eye looking up the table. I think it's going to be too much of a stretch for them to catch Aston Villa, but they're definitely right bang in the mix of 8th. And again, that could very much have that European position. And what a great outcome to the season that would be for Brentford to be in Europe next season. Would be absolutely phenomenal, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think it just shows that those teams that are being ran correctly, so i.e. the transfer strategy, the type of players that are coming in, like hungry players, good attitudes. Let's say I look at Fulham, Brentford, teams like that. They just do it so well, and they deserve European football for the things that they do off the field. It's deserved.
And of course, Ipswich now is just about, I guess, sort of getting players accustomed, playing players that you think you're going to be keeping for next season, getting them used to playing Premier League football so that they can get off to a flying start next season. Draw against Everton, shows that they're still fighting for the manager. Again, if they can keep the manager, you'd have to say they're favourites to bounce back up and actually, being honest, from their first attempt at the Premier League, they've not embarrassed themselves, have they? They've given it a go, and actually they're in a good spot for next season to come straight back up again.
Yeah, they've not embarrassed themselves, but they've not given it as good a fist as I thought they would, especially with the level of money they did spend. We both said it, from the money that was spent, that the transfers didn't look particularly amazing on paper. Some of them were a bit like championship level players, but they have set themselves up for next year, definitely. So if they can get rid of a couple of those players, bring in a bit of funds, completely. I think they're the red hot favourites to win the league next season. I think the only interesting thing for the remainder of the season for Ipswich and Leicester is who can finish 18th, because it's probably worth 2, 3, 4 million quid, which for your PSR calculations could be invaluable.
And joining the two conversations together, what I would do if I was Fulham and I lost Mario Silva, I would be going to Ipswich to try and get McKenna out of there as someone that would fit the Fulham system very well. I think, not saying he would go, not getting into that who's bigger or nonsense, because we upset enough fans as it is. You managed to upset a foreign fan base this week, which is impressive even by your standards. But I think that would be an interesting piece if Fulham could try and get him out of Ipswich. I think he'd be someone that would fit right in that out of Fulham from there.
Yeah, style of play and those sorts of things. It just seemed like a good fit, doesn't it? And going off the who's the bigger at the minute in time, Fulham are a big club, aren't they? Is in the Premier League, so the natural sort of progression would be there for McKenna. Whether loyalty kicks in and whether he wants to stay and get them back up. So yeah, I think that'd be an interesting move.
And so therefore, at Portman Road, 3 p.m. kickoff on Saturday, the score will be.
I've gone for Ipswich 1, Brentford 3.
Oh, thank God I didn't have to say that again. I've gone 1-2. I don't think Brentford. Having said that, they've just come off scoring 4 goals against Man United, so I'll keep my mouth shut. I don't think the next game is going to take a huge amount of dancing around, if I'm honest with you. Obviously, Southampton already relegated, on track for record points in terms of not many of them. Host Manchester City at St Mary's Stadium again, 3 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. If we twist this around, can Manchester City catch Arsenal for second?
Yes, they can catch them.
Will they?
I think they will. I think the momentum's with City at the minute. Arsenal have obviously got a very tough game in Liverpool, which people say they're on the beach now, Liverpool. But I think being at home against Arsenal, they'll definitely want to put a performance in against them. So I can see Arsenal dropping points. So could be a draw. But Man City, with this game against Southampton, I think it's the most. You can't even call it a banker, can you? And when I look at City, they are progressing. They are getting, say, Haaland back. Rodri's coming back, whether or not they feature, but they do seem to be in a better moment than Arsenal at the minute. Arsenal being a right downer after that Champions League. So I think Man City are probably in pole position to finish second now.
Interesting, isn't it, how quickly, it feels like just 2 weeks ago that Nottingham Forest and Arsenal were second and third locked in, guaranteed. There was no way they were not going to be in those 2 places, and how quickly that's not the case anymore. Of course, Arsenal have only won 1 of the last 5. 3 draws. In fact, the draws this season have killed them across the board. If they'd have drawn less games, they could arguably be top or certainly closer to it and still in the race. And again, it's the teams they're drawing against. Everton, Brentford, and Palace. Obviously, not great to look at. And of course, losing to Bournemouth, as somebody on here very wisely once predicted. But yeah, Manchester City look like they're starting to find their form, but they're still not fluid. They're still not at their best, but they're definitely getting back on. They're definitely on their way back to what they should be and who they are.
They're on their way back, and I can't work out whether it's that teams have just completely figured out how to play against them, or whether they're just a different team now entirely. Like that said, whether it's just sort of a bit of legs have gone. They just don't look the same. Like the press was relentless, wasn't it? Like they have just shifted a bit. But I think the key thing for me of why they have picked up is De Bruyne has been in, started most games, playing consistently. And I just think you can see the quality that he brings. Like when he has been in and out, they have looked at a very different team, which for me, for next season, is a worry because he's obviously going. How are they going to replace him? I mean, that question alone of how they're going to replace him. But when you see the influence he's still having now, and for me, he's the key reason why their form has picked up. What are they going to do next season? Who do they replace him with? Because there isn't anyone in the world who I can think of who go, he's the direct replacement. He is a bit of a one-off, the way that he plays.
So I've heard a little bit of a whisper, not saying that I want, but actually they'll offer him a new contract because of how he's played the last few weeks. They'll offer him a bit of a wrap-up contract to see if he'll stay. So yeah, don't write it off completely. Obviously, favourite to leave based on the stuff that's come out, but it wouldn't surprise me if they'd give him 1 more year.
I see the logic. Why would you not as well? Like, do you know, with the Gundogan situation and players like that, you just go, and Bernardo Silva as well has dropped off a cliff. I'll just go, thank you for all your time and all you've done here, off you go. But De Bruyne is still performing. Like, it's nonsensical to not offer him a 1 year deal to me.
Completely agree. Southampton host Manchester City at St Mary's. 3 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. The score will be
Just quickly on
Okay.
Southampton after
So,
their tanking by Leicester last week,
yeah,
who I thought were the worst team in the league. Southampton are dreadful. So pick a number. I'm going 0-4.
I'm going 0-3. I just think that it's two on the beach. This could have the kind of almost the most interesting game of the weekend in terms of style and how they're playing. Wolves host Brighton at Molineux 3 o'clock again on Saturday. Loads of 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday. Not that Wolves have got anything to play for. We get that, but actually, I've really enjoyed their turnaround. Obviously, they lost the first game against Manchester City, but even that was only 1-0, and actually, they had some moments in the game. Whereas Brighton, up and down, this could be very interesting stylistically and potentially quite a high scoring, entertaining game.
Yeah, I was surprised by Brighton nicking a point off Newcastle last week. When I looked at the stats after 70 minutes, Brighton had one shot, just one, which for a team who pride themselves on keeping the ball, progressing the ball up the pitch, playing, attacking on the front foot football, to have one shot, I was a bit. And I have noticed their form going downhill as well. So I do think this is interesting. I think, looking at the table as well, there's obviously 11 points between them, but I think it's a very close game. Very close game. And if anything, I'd probably say Wolves have got the edge.
Yeah, interesting. I think it's definitely going to be potentially it's where the Wolves have the on the beach. Are they on the beach? If they're on the beach,
It's the mentality of the game, isn't it?
correct. If they've gone and we're safe and we're done, you kind of go, okay, Brighton, they have still got something to play for. But if Wolves match their energy, which so far I've seen no signs of them turning off, by the way, and I'm here for it. Personally, without going too early, I've got this down as a high scoring draw because I can see this being entertaining, end to end, maybe with a penalty or two in the game as well. Lots of chances, keepers making great saves, but actually ended up being a bit of a stalemate.
Yeah, and for me, I think this game sort of would just suit Cunha as well. So Brighton do leave space in between the lines, and he'll just float and get on the ball. So I can see a few goals in this. I think it's going to be an entertaining game, definitely.
It also depends on who they can put on the pitch. I haven't checked for a while, but last time I looked, Brighton had quite a few sort of injuries to some, relatively. Does Matoma come back? Paul Van Hecker, is he back? Georgina Rutter. They've got some injuries in and around that team that I'm just not sure they can carry kind of week in, week out anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's a big reason as to why their levels did just dip for the past few weeks.
Yeah, but again, another interesting team in terms of what they do with the rest of the season and where they go next season. And does European football mean they can attract, the next level up of player? Obviously, Wolves are, in a good spot. They've got some good contacts in terms of players that come in. So again, Wolves, if they can keep playing, obviously what they do with let's assume the Cunha leaves, what they do with the Cunha money could be the make or break of how their trajectory goes from here, couldn't it?
I think that you've summed that up there with the make or break with the Cunha money. It is. If they spend that badly, they're in a world of trouble because at times this season he's single-handedly carried them, hasn't he? Which to not get anyone in as a replacement, probably not like for like, because you're going to struggle to get a single individual, but a couple of players who can do, whether it's a wing or a forward. If they don't do that, they're going to really struggle because he has single-handedly probably won them 15, 20 points, which you take that off their tally. They're in and around it, aren't they? So, he's probably the difference as to why, they are so far ahead of Ipswich. Ipswich have seen Liam Delap carry them. Cunha's done that for Wolves. You take them off it and they're pretty even.
I do like Strand Larson, though. Like I say, when you look down the league, you look at, does he improve Chelsea? Does he improve Arsenal? Does he improve Man United? For me, yes, and yes. It'd be interesting to see where he ends up next season as well in terms of his journey, because for me, he's been one of the more impressive number 9s this season.
Yeah, I think he'll probably stay just based on having one season, and teams wouldn't want to sort of plump for him. But I don't think he's been as impressive as Delap, as an example, but he's definitely been impressive, and you could definitely see a team sort of in the next part of the table take that chance on him as opposed to a top 6 team. That's probably the step after that. He needs to prove himself again, doesn't he? But going to a team that creates more chances for him, gets him more involved in the game, will obviously his talents will shine more because he has played in a team that's set up relatively defensively. So in that case, he's also shone.
Also depends on what happens with Ronnie Watkins, of course, because obviously, there's rumour of him being unhappy or available. I'm not saying that you go from Wolves to Aston Villa easily or lightly, but it opens up different options for people that are looking for a number 9. And like you say, could he be? I think we did this sort of not joke, but sort of sentence around who's second in the Even Tony race, didn't we? In terms of, because everyone was allegedly after Even Tony, but who's second in the Liam Delap race, and could Strand Larsen be the second place prize if you can't get Liam Delap over the line?
Yeah, agreed.
So Wolves Brighton 3 p.m. I knew the score will be.
I think we're going to have a lot. So I've gone for 1-1, which you said yours is high scoring. So we're on the same lines.
I've gone 2-2. We move to Sunday. Good luck, Chelsea fans. 12 o'clock, St James's Park, Newcastle. I hope you've started to leave already. Because you've got to get up the stairs as well when you get there. You've had to drive all the way, then you've got to get up the stairs.
You've missed Bournemouth Villa.
Oh, sorry, bud. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah,
right. I didn't want you to just miss it.
No, it's a great point. It's whole 5 Chelsea and Newcastle. We'll come back to you because we've got a 5
set off now, though. Still set off now and you'll be all right.
Go. Bournemouth 5:30 at the Vitality House, Aston Villa, in what is a battle for European football. Both teams feel like they're stuttering a little bit in up and down form in terms of maybe that's a little bit harsh on Aston Villa, who've only lost 1 of the last 5, and that was a big game obviously against Man City obviously, and Bournemouth obviously come back off that great win against Arsenal. This should be a really good, exciting Saturday evening game, shouldn't it?
It should be. I'm expecting this to be a good game. I am quite confident on a Villa win, though. I think they'll have too much. Said again, it means a bit more to them because they are still pushing for that 5th spot. Their form has been good, hasn't it? They gave PSG a good run for their money. Watkins is back in the goals. I'm really confident on a Villa win, to be honest. I think it'll be a very good game, a tight game. So I'm not saying it's like 4-0, but I think I'm very confident on a Villa win.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just think that actually, the thing that brought, and again, it was highlighted on Monday Night Football, wasn't it, around that kind of adaptation in half-time to set pieces and set plays and how they are reacting to what the other team doing live rather than sort of doing it at the start of the game and setting a standard, I think is a really interesting piece of where football's going. Obviously, Ivan Ilson has I think done a very good job around kind of, coming into that Bournemouth team and replacing Dominic Solanke with goals and energy. And I can see them giving Aston Villa a very, very, very tough game. But like you, I think that Aston Villa will just have a little bit too much based on how important it is to them and where they're going.
Yeah, I can see Tielemans running the show in midfield. He's been very good this season. He looks fit, properly fit. He looks thin, fit, and he is dominating games with his passing range is superb. When he's on it, he's a joy to watch, and I can see him sort of dominating that midfield in there for them.
And again, you could almost see if Aston Villa went and got sort of 3 or 4 of those Bournemouth players for next season, that would be a very good piece of work for them. Semenya probably doesn't stay, in terms of there'll be 4 or 5 teams sniffing around him when it's like, Bournemouth have got to try and keep these players because that's going to be how they maintain that form. It could be a very different 11 next season, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could be, and they've obviously got to keep the manager. He'll be one that is on a lot of clubs' shopping lists. On the Villa transfer front, one person who I would let go, I think, who's always been overrated in my opinion, who is being linked away, is the keeper Martinez. I think he's made some huge errors this year, and it's not really been picked up by the media. I don't think he is the keeper that he's made out to be, and I think they could actually sell him for a big profit. I think Saudi have come in for him, sell him for a big profit, and go and reinvest in a younger keeper. Because I think he's caused them problems this year. He's made quite a few errors.
Yeah, he's another one that falls into that category of an Argentina warrior, isn't he? Like, he is just all about playing for Argentina, and the rest of it is ad hoc, really. Like, it doesn't strike me as being somebody that cares passionately about it. I know in a penalty shootout, he comes to life and he dances about, he does his thing. But like you say, for me, I put him in the same bracket as Romero. For Argentina, they're arguably the best centre back and goalkeeper in the world. In the Premier League, they're pretty average.
Don't get me wrong, he's a good goalkeeper, and he's won goal. I don't believe he ever has been the best goalkeeper in the world. He's won it based on winning the World Cup for Argentina and stuff. He isn't the best goalkeeper in the world. He's a very good goalie, but I think he is on the decline. I'd be selling him to get some money into the club now. They need to sell somebody apparently to comply with PSR. I think he's the prime candidate.
Yeah, but again, I'm with the way the transfer window's working this summer, with it being open early, with the way that we saw the PSR shenanigans last week, I'm not worried about that. Aston Villa will find somebody else who's in trouble, and someone will buy him for 50 million. They'll sign an unknown 17-year-old for 40 million, and everybody be happy, and so we'll move on. So PSR is dead to me. They'll find a way around it. They'll sell their women's team to the men's team for 450 million. They'll do something.
Yeah, it's an absolute shambles, isn't it? That.
Because that's what Chelsea did, obviously selling the women's team to the men's team for 250 million, which obviously, or maybe the other way around. But yeah, putting 250 million quid into the Chelsea account essentially. Bournemouth host Aston Villa, 5:30 kick-off at the Vitality on Saturday. The score will be
I've gone for Bournemouth 1, Villa 2.
Snap. Let's go. Let's try Snap as a better option. I've gone exactly the same. So we now get to go to Newcastle finally, where they host Chelsea.
Fans have arrived.
Yeah, they definitely have. They're just yeah. Anyway, Newcastle host Chelsea. Now this on paper is a massive game, isn't it? And what I mean by that is that Chelsea now in a cup final, which puts a little bit of a skew on it. Chelsea don't quite feel to me like they're at the same level as they've got. If I'm looking at a squad and a team, for me, Chelsea are beneath where Newcastle are in their journey, even though they're level on points. Chelsea have had a very good period where they've beaten, good time to play Liverpool, right? If we're being honest, I'm not reading too much into that. They maybe had a few beers, they changed a few people around, so a very good time but you still got to beat them. But a very good time to play Liverpool. Can you give any chance of Chelsea going up there and stopping Newcastle and beating Newcastle with the fans behind them?
No, I've got this down as a home win. I agree with you. I'm not reading too much into the fact that Chelsea beat Liverpool. It's the perfect time to play them. I thought they did perform well. To be honest, we mentioned it a few weeks ago. They're more likely to beat a Liverpool than they are, a team down there, and it sort of came to fruition. I believe this is going to be a step too far for them. I think Newcastle will physically bully them. I think the energy that they'll play out as well. I was surprised that they did beat Brighton, but I think now it's become even more important. I think they're going to be well up for this. So like you say, at home with the fans behind them, I think it's got a home win on it.
And so if whoever wins on Saturday, Sunday, assuming that there is a victory, not a draw, that would put them 1 point behind Arsenal as well. Is there a chance that Arsenal finish fourth?
I'm not going to comment at the minute because I don't know the fixtures of who the others have got. Man City. Well, so to say it short, yes, there is a chance. Well, mind you, Arsenal are playing Newcastle next game week.
So
yes, there is a chance.
If Newcastle were to win that, now you would argue that Arsenal have the safety blanket of Southampton away in the last game of the season. But you'd have to start to think about that. That could become a little bit nervy, couldn't it? If Newcastle beat Arsenal, which, let's be honest, they've had a history of doing recently, you'd have to say that they've definitely given Arsenal a good going over a few times. Arsenal could come into that game needing to win to finish second. And for all those years that Arsenal have been talking about Spurs finishing third in a two-dog race or two-horse race, I've got a feeling, Arsenal fans, if you don't finish second, you're in for a long, rough summer of abuse.
Do you know what? There's a chance they could finish fifth.
Oof, too far.
I don't know, because if they do lose to Liverpool and teams around them pick up points, there's still a chance that so let's say Newcastle and Chelsea draw, 64 points, are 3 points behind. Newcastle then beat Arsenal. Man City will obviously win by a point. There is a chance, if it plays out the way that we think it could do, that they may finish fifth. It's not that big of a leap. So, considering a few weeks ago we were like far too many points, they just haven't done the business, have they, Arsenal? As good as they have been throughout the season at times. Like you said, 13 draws. It stands like a sore thumb when you look at the chart, the table. 13 draws. It's not good enough.
No, so I'm going to pop your bubble. There's no way they finish fifth. I think they're guaranteed to get to 70 points because I think they beat Southampton the last day of the season. With Newcastle playing Chelsea, they can't both. There's goal difference to be taken into account as well. So for me, and Arsenal have a better goal difference, so therefore that counts as another point essentially. I think Arsenal are guaranteed top four. But
I'm just saying they could. Yeah. I wasn't saying it's a big possibility, but they're definitely almost guaranteed third, fourth. Yeah.
And so Chelsea,
it's mad though.
Yeah.
I know we'll obviously come on to Arsenal, won't they? But that's just not good enough, is it?
No, but they're all happy because there's been progress. Chelsea on a good run of form note, like we spoke about. Again, you can only beat who's in front of you. Beat Everton in a tough game. Beating Fulham. Come off back of 2 draws. Obviously, buoyed with being able to rest players and rotate players in the Conference League, and they're in the final as well. So that's 3 English teams in European finals, which is fantastic. This is again when we talk about Chelsea. For me, the Liverpools, the Newcastles, the Arsenals, they seem to raise their game for the big teams. But I am like you, this away from home, early kick-off on a Sunday, they're not going to enjoy that. No one enjoys going to St James's Park for an early kick-off. I think that Newcastle will just squeeze the life out of Chelsea. They'll just have a little bit too much know-how and physicality, and Chelsea are still quite a young team, aren't they? They're quite immature, and I just think that Newcastle will just have too much for them.
Yeah, I see it that way as well. Physicality and high energy press. I expect to see a Newcastle press. There's been some games when I've seen it, I've been really taken back by how hard that they've pressed. And it's almost, you can't keep that up, and they've just kept it up for 90 minutes. Then there's other games I watch, and they go, obviously you can't do it throughout the season, which is why you don't see it every game. But there was one game I saw them, I was like, but I fully expect this. I think pressing this Chelsea side, like I said, young side, like to play a slow tempo build up to try and pick holes. I think a high energy press, physicality of that midfield as well. I can see them really battering Chelsea, not from a scoreline perspective, just from a physicality perspective.
Yeah, don't disagree. Don't disagree. Okay, so Newcastle host Chelsea, 12 o'clock, St James's Park. Score will be?
I've gone for Newcastle 2, Chelsea 1.
I've gone for 3-1. 3-1 Newcastle. We move on to the Battle of the Uniteds. West Ham travel to Old Trafford at 2:15 on Sunday to play Manchester United, fresh off the back of qualifying for a final, and therefore pick your Man United. What I would say, couple of players come back from injury. Mason Mount, Amad Diallo made a difference last night. Not saying they'll play Sunday, but great for Man United to be getting some of those players back. But this is very much, I would say, more important to West Ham than Manchester United, and that gives them, normally looking at league table, you'd have this as a home win, but you have to now at least open the debate around West Ham going there with a little bit more to play for.
I've found this game the hardest of the game week to pick a scoreline on, because I think West Ham are so poor that when I look at United, even with a few changes, I think they still may win. Because like I said, there's people coming back into that squad who will need more minutes to carry on getting fitness under the belts, like your Mason Mount. So I still can see United putting out a relatively strong team, because there's still a fair way to go into the final. We'll still be trying to get people fit, firing in form. So I've gone for a home win based on how poor West Ham are as opposed to how good United are. I found this really difficult to pick. I think there's a case for all three outcomes.
Yeah, I've gone the other way. I just think that actually, if you look at that league table, without ruining the suspense of futures, I think Spurs lose to Palace. Obviously, West Ham beat Man United. We've said Everton are going to lose to Fulham. This moves West Ham from 17th to 14th. It'll put them on 40 points. It jumps them up. I don't think they'll have a bigger jump all season. You know, if Wolverhampton Wanderers don't beat Brighton, you could then argue that West Ham could finish as high as 13th if they just get the next couple of games, and that puts a completely different perspective on the season. So for me, I think that
I just don't know whether they're good enough is the question. You were confident of them beating Spurs last week, which, I mean, Spurs are the majority of the play of the game. I just think West Ham is so, if you take Jared Bowen out of that team, they are a relegation team.
You could say that for lots of teams, couldn't you? In terms of, take one player out and it makes, Wolves, as you've already done, you take Eze out of Palace or Mateta out of Palace, and he is there, and therefore I do give West Ham more than a fair chance. And so for me, I've actually gone in the 2:15 kickoff live on Sky Sports at Old Trafford. I've gone for Manchester United 1, West Ham 2.
I've gone for Manchester United 2, West Ham 0.
I've had a falling out, Frank. We're normally quite close.
That's the first one where we've disagreed on an outcome.
Yeah. So none of those early ones will come in, then that's how it normally works.
I think we might have another disagreement here.
Really? What, you think Leicester are going to beat Nottingham Forest, do you?
No, I don't think they'll win. I'm going for a random prediction on this. I just think Forest need to win to challenge for the Champions League. Jamie Vardy needs one more goal to get 200 goals for Leicester. I think it's written in the stars that he scores his 200th goal and causes an upset and makes Forest drop points. That's the only logic of that game. It's not that I think Leicester are a good side. Leicester are terrible. It will probably end up being 4-0 Forest. I just think when stuff like that, when you hear like the story of that, I just think it's written in the stars.
Okay. I get it, but I think actually, again, of course, with the Chelsea travelling to Newcastle being the early kick-off, they all know exactly where they stand. And of course, if Nottingham Forest were to beat Leicester and Chelsea were to lose Newcastle United, that would leapfrog Nottingham Forest back into fifth above Chelsea, which I think would be a really interesting incentive. I just think actually Nottingham Forest have struggled recently because teams have stopped allowing them to break if they're sitting deeper, and I just think that Leicester probably don't have the inclination to worry about it. I don't, like, what do they care? Like, unless I'm missing something, do Leicester really have a passion about stopping Nottingham Forest? Do they really care that much?
I think of the fans will have that passion. I think the fans wouldn't want nothing more than to stop them getting Champions League football. I think it'll probably run through to the club as well, knowing how much of a big game it will mean to them, considering that they're already down. I'm just taking it that Leicester will be buoyed by last week. Obviously, they're already down, so it's not like it's a massive result for them beating a Southampton team, but they'll take a bit of confidence from that and hopefully give Forest a good game, because the last thing we want to see is a derby game that's just a one-sided battering.
Yeah, yeah. So look, to be fair, I don't think Nottingham Forest are battering anybody anymore this season. I think that's a thing of the past. Not that it happens very often. I think it's a bit tight game. I think that obviously Leicester off the back of a win, which is great, and keeps that. Albeit, I won't use the phrase you used last week, but certainly the bottom two playing each other is a game that you'd expect Leicester to have a chance. And I actually thought Southampton would, as I said, but I think that Nottingham Forest are just going to be defensively too tight for Leicester. I don't see Leicester. If Leicester were losing games 4-3 and 5-4 and 3-2, they don't score many goals. But the one thing I will say is
the logical point is that I agree with you.
But I do genuinely hope that Jamie Vardy finds that goal. Not necessarily in this game, but before the end of the season. I think it would be absolutely amazing if he could find that one last goal to get to 200. Playing for Leicester, I think that would be...
penalty miss against Wolves is going to haunt him, isn't it?
Listen, as a centre forward, you could probably go back and reel off, probably 50 really good chances he's missed. That's not, he's been an absolute wonder to the team and the league. And so for me, and I know he's a shit house, and I know he likes to wind other teams up, and I'm not a Leicester fan, so he's probably had a dig at my team in some time in the past. I would love for him to get to 200 goals, and I'd love for him to do it in the last couple of games. Personally, I'd like for him to do it. Have Leicester got another home game? They must have another home game
against Ipswich.
So that for me would be to win the game. That would be for them to then finish above Ipswich. That would be a fantastic kind of crescendo of love and appreciation for him at the stadium. I think that would be a fantastic way to go as they unveil his new statue at some point in the future.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So the score at 2:15 at the City Ground, Nottingham Forest playing Leicester. The score will be, Fran?
I've gone for 1-1.
I've gone for 2-1 Nottingham Forest. I think they will just have a little bit too much about them. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, where on the beach Hotspurs versus on the beach Palace. To be fair, the one thing I will say is Oliver Glasner's come out and said that actually Crystal Palace are going to take this game seriously because they want to go in with some form. But as you get closer and closer to those cup finals, I think you take less and less risks. And I could see Eze maybe not starting. I could see Kamada being in there as an example. But for me, if I'm Ange Postecoglou, I am going under 23s. In you come, 17-year-old. There you go, Mikey Moore's on the left. You're going to start Bane Scarlett up front. You're going to go with, Bane. I would not be having any player anywhere near that first team at all.
I agree entirely, and I fully expected that last week, and he put out pretty much a full it, and I thought, whoa, where's that come from? I think you'll see people like your Richarlison start, players on the fringe, which would make sense to try and get them some minutes. But yeah, for me, I've gone, this is my bank of the week in Palace. I think Palace are a great price at 6-4. The form that they're in, the form that Adam Wharton's in, by the way, what a player he is. Just completely running the show. Looks like he's 30 years old and has been there, done it in top leagues and top teams. Hell of a player. And I just think Palace will just have a bit too much form going into this for Spurs. And like you said, putting 2 and 2 together, getting 5 and looking at the team that they could put out. I think this is a pretty comfortable Palace win, and 6-4 is brilliant value.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, by the way. I thought Adam Wharton was spectacular again on Monday night. I thought Eze was spectacular on Monday night. I thought both of them looked like they could be playing at a much... Again, sorry, everybody, we do this all the time, but I thought they could be playing at a much higher level. They'll do well to keep one of them, let alone both of them this summer.
I saw them linked to Man City, the pair of them, for 140 million, and I thought you're going to need a bit more than that.
You're probably not wrong. Yeah, you're probably not wrong. Yeah. But you're talking, that's your starting point, isn't it? That is definitely your starting point.
100%. I'd be looking at around the 100 million. I'd be slapping 100 million on Adam Morton, if I'm being funny. I know it's a big number, and I know he's only young. He's not really done a lot in the game, but to me, he looks an unbelievable talent. He just looks so relaxed. It's Xavi-like, or when he's on the ball, it's just ping, 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 and it's just so easy for him. Like, I think he's one of the biggest English talents we've got, and I'd be slapping 100 million on him to try and keep him. But if then somebody pays it, you go on then. We'll take that.
Couldn't agree more. And of course, they're still getting a tune out of Mateta as well. Who's still, I mean, I don't know how bad that cut was, but for me now, I'd be thinking, can you lose the headgear? Like, I think that was almost like he's now got it as a comfort blanket, isn't it? Like, for me, I think not that he's stopping.
Peter check it his whole career.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about that. I've got to be honest with you. I think for me, let it go. We know it happened, but of course, it could still be a really bad wound. I haven't seen it. I'm not close enough to know that there is a problem there. But Crystal Palace have overachieved. They've done a phenomenal job in terms of not only where they are in the league in terms of safe and feet on the beach, but also to get to a cup final. And actually, if they can show that energy, because again, not forgetting it was only a couple of weeks ago they absolutely tore Aston Villa a new one, and not many teams do that. So it's going to be a really interesting piece. And for me, I think they go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and absolutely, I think it'll be comfortable, if I'm honest with
you. Yeah, I've got a comfortable win down as well.
So, 2:15 Sunday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Is it 2:15? Let me just double check. I've not gone over the pulled a funny face there. Maybe I'm wrong. No, not wrong.
No, I've got no idea.
2:15. Spurs have Crystal Palace. The score will be?
I've gone for Spurs 1, Palace 3.
I've gone 0-2. 0-2. Which would not surprise me in the slightest. We wrap up the game week at Anfield, where Liverpool host Arsenal in the 4:30 kickoff. This could have been so much, couldn't it? This could have been an absolute blockbuster of a game, but is essentially a parade of Liverpool, doing their kind of victory tour. And unfortunately, it's such a shame this game just really doesn't matter anymore, does it? Actually, I'll be watching El Clasico. I'll be watching Barcelona, Real Madrid, rather than this game, if I'm being honest.
It's a completely pointless game, isn't it? I'm very surprised by Salah's drop-off because he was obviously probably the main candidate for the Ballon d'Or, but his drop in form the past 5, 6, 7 weeks has just meant that I don't think he's even in the running for it now, is he? Like, he's not even being spoken about like that. The only chance he's got is if he finishes strong, which that's all I can think from a Liverpool perspective is they're going to try and make him win the Golden Boot, all of the awards, Player of the Season, those sorts of things. So that's the angle I'm pitching this at, is they're going to try and perform for Salah, but I can't make a case for any of these two teams. Both of them are just completely on the beach and boring, dull game, I envisage.
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll be boring or dull, but just it's such a shame that this is a pointless. Like, genuinely, this would have been absolute box office, wouldn't it? League title on the line. It would have been just huge. But I can't even get excited about talking about it. I can't. Liverpool have already showed their hand last week against Chelsea. You could say, well, because they're at home, possibly they care more, but they don't, because it's just going to be a celebration. Fans are still quite rightly so celebrating. Arsenal, you could say, well, they need to bounce back from the Champions League, but even if they win this game, is that really bounce back? I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really even know what to say about the game, to be honest. Like I said, the appetite I've got for the game is zero. And like you said, going from such a potentially big game, what it would mean, I just don't really have a lot of appetite for it. I don't see, like I said, I don't see the point in watching it. There'll be other games on that will have a bit more about it and be a bit more, not entertaining, but entertaining from, the meaning of the game.
Well, I'm not joking. I will be watching Barcelona play Real Madrid. 3:15 on Sunday. I'll be there, because that for me is a game that still. I mean, it's unlikely that Real Madrid overtopple Barcelona based on where they are, but there is still something on it, and it will be. It is the derby, and it for me, that will be where my Sunday afternoon is spent. I will not be spending any time on this game until that one's finished.
Yep, agreed.
Anfield 4:30, Liverpool host Arsenal. The score will be?
I've gone for Liverpool 2, Arsenal 1.
I've gone 2-2, but again, no real rationale behind it. Literally, I'm just putting numbers down on a bit of paper, if that way, being honest with you, which is a real shame to say. We moved to a £5 challenge. Now, you told me something about you've put £1 on all of your predictions that come out, something like 500,000 to one or something crazy. I can't remember what it was, but it's a big number. So
So
what?
I always put £1 on all of my predictions just in case it comes in, and it's 3,886 to 1, but with the boost that Bet365 give you for the ACCAs, it pays £552.
Very nice, very nice. For your £5 challenge, where have you gone this week?
So I've gone for a treble, and it pays 59.30, which is Brentford, Villa, and Palace.
Okay, so I've added Newcastle to those three, and it pays £112 because it's 21 to 1. So by adding Newcastle, I've jumped that right up, but the other three are in there as well. So we're either both going to be happy or both be miserable on that one. There's no grey area in that.
What was your payout again? Sorry,
£112.
£112, lovely. So we could be massive. So we're 85 quid in profit for the season on the £5 challenge. So we're going to be minimum 50 quid, 55 quid, something like that by the end of the season, which isn't a bad going. If those two come in, we could be quite far ahead of that.
We'll be
Who's your banker
millionaires.
that you've gone for this week?
My banker this week is Nottingham Forest, mate.
Forest. I don't know what odds they are, but yeah, I've got Palace at 6 to 4, which you put them together, you should get a nice little price with those two.
Nottingham Forest are 1 to 3.
What are they? 1 to 3. Still shouldn't be too bad. 6 to 4, 1 to 3.
Leave it with me. Give me 2 seconds. Whilst I'm doing this, no, actually, there we go. It is a grand total of 2.27 to 1. So £5 returns 16 quid.
It's not too bad.
Wonderful. Where can people find us, mate? Where can they reach out and get involved, or not, as the case might be, or abuse us, or tell us that we're useless or don't know what we're talking about?
So on social media, we're on Twitter, X, we're on Facebook, and we're on TikTok. To listen to the episodes, we are on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, and we're on YouTube. If you just do us a favour and share the episodes, like and subscribe, reply to any of our social media messages. And if you want to come on and be a guest, get in touch, you're more than welcome.
Fantastic, friend. As always, my favourite hour of the week. Good work, buddy. Look forward to speaking to you next week.